Hey, welcome back, everybody. Worship teams, worship leaders, welcome to the worship team hangout. We got all of our friends here on Periscope, and they're ready to go, and you're ready to go. Thank you so much for coming by on this special December the 23rd on a pre-Christmas Eve Christmas special. So welcome. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. We also want to say a very special welcome to our host, Rich Kirkpatrick. How you doing today, Rich?
I'm doing good. Merry Christmas to everybody. And I did see the Star Wars. Can we spoil all the plot points for everybody?
Oh, no. There's no Jar Jar. That's the problem. There's no Jar Jar. So,
okay, you spoiled it for somebody.
So far. So, and we want to introduce our returning special guest, Cynthia Cullen. How are you, Cynthia?
Hey, everybody. Merry Christmas. How are you?
Merry Christmas. Great to see you. You look bright and cheery, just like a sleigh bell.
Well, I try.
And I don't know what that
means. It is the Christmas season, and I'd like to say to all of our friends out there, Happy Festivus.
And breakdown translation?
Happy Festivus. Those that know. It's the end of Festivus. And I have, for those of you that love Festivus, I have our Festivus poll right here.
Is that to hit people with?
No, it's where we're going to air our grievances later, and then have some feats of strength.
It's not for liturgical dancing, by the way.
No, it is not for liturgical dancing.
No. Great. Well, hey, glad you guys are here. Welcome. And this is a great day, a great time that we can just have fun. Unfortunately, we are without our lovely other hosts, Tony Guerrero, Stephanie Kelly, Tim Timmons. They are actually in the midst of, let's see, Stephanie has been getting her exams finished, and Timmons and Tony got called into the studio. Swift is somewhere on a roller coaster and came into the video feed just like a moment ago, so it's kind of like a pop surprise thing if he shows up again. So, but anyway, great to have you guys today. Let's see, returning guest Cynthia Cullen. Cynthia, just a little bit of background for her. She's worship arts director over at Hilton Head Island Community Church, right next to our good friend
Fred McKinnon.
So Fred, awesome. Glad. Say hello. And Fred's been a friend for quite a few years now. And worshipcommunity.com, you guys can find him there. Awesome stuff, awesome site, awesome people. So big shout out and loves to you guys. So Cynthia and her husband Todd he serves as a lead pastor, and they have their children, both Sydney and Sean. And 8 years ago, they planted the church. Cynthia has been in worship arts ministry since for 22 years, both serving in Miami, Atlanta, New York City. She's keyboardist, guitarist. She also plays the harmonophone.
Melodica.
Sorry. Wow,
yeah.
She's right there. She had to get that dog out, all right? So Cynthia is most passionate about investing into the next generation of worship leaders and serves as one of the 6 worship leaders at her church. Please welcome everybody, Cynthia Cullen. How are you today, Cynthia?
I am so glad to be here. I'm excited to make some music with my friends today. I'm most excited about that.
Well, we are excited to have you back. So, shall we do, Rich, do you have your stuff ready to go?
Got something?
Cynthia?
I have something.
Okay. All right, so let's go. We got to do a Christmas song. Okay. What Christmas song are we going to do? Rich has a shaker.
Brandon, what do you have?
My goodness. All right, so key D. I got my guitar.
Blue Christmas?
Blue Christmas. Oh, how about a Blue Christmas? Yeah. Is that good?
Okay, I think so. Who's singing?
All right, and 1, 2, and 3. Dun, dun.
Christmas.
Who's singing?
This is not working.
We need
Okay.
a singer.
I'm the background singer.
You got the melody. You got the lead, Cynthia.
Oh, you want me to play the melody?
Yeah, play the lead. Play the lead, please.
Okay, here we go. I'll try. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, and. Let's hear for everybody. The worship team training toy band.
Yeah.
Really here.
And Cynthia,
I hear a workshop coming for this.
I know it, and people are.
No, we need a workshop
right now.
Yes, we need a workshop.
Anyway, we're here to just share some of the great things, what God has done with you guys here at Worship Team Training. You guys have so faithfully tuned in every other week as we do our broadcasts, and also those of you on Periscope following us every day. So shout out to you guys watching on Periscope, on the replay and live, and you guys watching us live too, YouTube. And so we are excited to bring to you all the shows that we've done and just kind of like this recap thing. So real quick, let's talk about 2015. Cynthia, what has 2015 meant for you this past year as a worship leader?
Wow, big question.
Yes, it is.
I think for me, and I shared this with our team a little bit over the last few months, that this was a year of transition for me. I kind of made the decision this summer to move from being on stage every single week as the lead worship leader and become one of the rest of the team. And so this was a big year for me in that, and then to equip these new younger worship leaders to come alongside and lead with me. It's just been an amazing year. It's probably been one of the most difficult years for that because there's so much involved with doing that. But I have to say, sitting here now at the end of this year and looking to 2016, it's been one of the most rewarding experiences to be able to come alongside all this younger generation that's leading worship in our church. Awesome.
Well, that's great. And Rich, tell us what has been some of the most memorable moments for you in 2015 as a worship leader?
Well, I completed my first complete, without any breaks, church calendar year, following the traditional church calendar. And of course, as some of you who do that, you know that Advent is the beginning of that. So the cool thing about that is we got, let's see, first time doing a longest night blue Christmas service. So I guess the song was appropriate for that. And well, yeah, and the service was interesting. We had a manger. The pastor really did a beautiful job. Had this manger filled with sand, and people would come up, and as you had a loss, you'd come up and pray for, most of the people, it was a lost husband or wife or family member or other circumstances. And it was really a beautiful community service we had last night. So for me, I would have to say that was just one of the highlights of, both starting Advent, which is like the wow, this is a year two, this is the beginning of that, and then also the service last night, which really was something different. You think of Christmas, the elf on a shelf all the time, but
yeah,
folks who really hurt during the season, and it was really nice to see a place for a few of those folks to come and just express their worship where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I guess for me, it's been for 2015. I would say our home church, Friendship Church in Richmond, Texas. I've been with them for almost 3 years, and God has moved us to another new church where we're at now. But I would say that the best times for my family and I have definitely been with the great people and great worship team over at Friendship Church. Serving with them and just to see where they are, where they came from, and now they have a new leader, they have a new pastor, and they've just really picked up not only where we left off, but they've just grown so much, and there's so many people that have been serving, people have never been serving before, teams that have been growing, people that have been growing in their gifting and their calling, and so it's just been an awesome, wonderful thing. And I've been getting messages like over the past 2-3 weeks of, hey, we miss you, and I'm like, hey, great to see what you guys are still doing and how you're growing. So I think the biggest legacy that we can leave for our worship teams is what God has been teaching us, what we're able to put back into our team. It's not about, Cynthia, I'd like to hear from you on this, but it's not about just leading songs. It's much more than that, right? What does that mean for you?
Right, you said it. It's so much about what God's doing in the life of our team, and so those are probably some of my most favorite moments of the last year. Was some of our generation. We have just a wide range of generations participating in our church, from very young to, as I call, seasoned, not old, seasoned. And I love to see the interaction of the generations, and I think that's been something that I've enjoyed so much about this year with having that. And as you said, seeing what God's doing in the life of our team and how that flushes out. It's so much more important than the 5 songs we have to sing in a few hours here tonight for Christmas Eve. It's so much more important to see what God's doing in and through the life of the team that each of us have been called to invest in and to pour our life into.
Very good, very good. And Rich, you've been with us now, and man, it's so awesome, by the way, having you aboard on our worship team hangout and also on worshipteamtraining.com as a mentor and instructor. So, woohoo! It's been awesome to have you, Rich, join us this past 2015. And so, as you've been doing also the hangouts with us now, we've had you in and out before, but you've been consistently here. So, all the topics that we've gone through, I think about Randy Elrod was our major big push that we had here this season 4. What did that show mean for you? Because we talked a lot about burnout. We talked a lot about staying healthy in unhealthy situations. So what spoke to you the most?
Well, I do think, you have to lead yourself to lead others is basically what that is. And oftentimes the theme there is when you're giving in ministry, what's your limit is the question. And I think that's really the big takeaway is, being honest about that and getting help, which is why mentoring is important, which is why having people seasoned, why having peers that you have relationships with, while all of these things are important because you have to own that. And as, some of the conversations we had, oftentimes, you're an employee, and in some situations, that's really how you're viewed from the institution's standpoint. But for you, it's your church home, it's your family. And so there's a lot of pressure if that's not working well, or if it's not healthy for you. So I really think that, having those conversations, some of them very candid and open, I think those are very helpful for people. And looking back, as we talked about, the one that we did about the past relationship, having made some of those mistakes myself, you realize, okay, hopefully some of the younger guys and gals can do better.
Right. Yeah, I would say for me with Randy, it's been that, I guess, the assurance that Randy's such an awesome guy, and just to hear him say, look, here's what I've been through, that's huge for worship leaders, because there's a lot of guys that feel isolated or alone within their own ministry, even like the younger worship leaders, right, Cynthia? What's been your experience with working with the younger worship leaders?
I think their biggest struggle is the fact that, from what they've expressed to me, is just they have a real desire to please, right? Yeah. And they feel, at least my team, I feel like they just have such a desire to do it well, but yet they're still young, and there's not life experience, there's not time yet for some of those things to have developed yet. So my biggest struggle with my team is encouraging them to realize this is a marathon, not a sprint. And that they need to approach every time that they feel, and as artists, we're very perfectionist driven, don't look at if something didn't go well, don't look at it as a failure. Just look at it as an opportunity to learn from that experience and move on. And as Rich was saying, creating an environment where people have the freedom to fail is very important in the local church, especially with artists. I truly believe you cannot nurture the heart of an artist if there is not the freedom to fail in your church culture.
Right.
Because for us, every 6 days, it's a new opportunity to get up and fail, or succeed. It's just how you view it. And so I think it's important to create a culture in your organization, if you have influence in that, where people do have the freedom to fail, and to approach it more as you said, it's a marathon. This is not a sprint. And for us to sustain that, we have to have rest, and we have to have that time to process. And as we talked about earlier, just what is God doing in and through us? That needs to be the first and foremost. And then let the Holy Spirit work through that, and let the outcome be what He thinks it should be, not necessarily what we think it should be.
Right. Awesome. You know, that brings to mind the Kansas City Royals, who won the World Series. And I've talked about this before on Periscope with folks, but I'll say it again. I think that the best thing I've ever heard a coach say, this is what happened just before the winning game of the championship series. The Kansas City Royals coach said to his team before they went out to the field, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Mm. And I think that what you said, Cynthia, is huge. Rich, can you tell us, what does that mean for you? You've talked before about, back in September, we did the episode Replacing Yourself, which that has a lot to do about, working through failures and bringing up younger generations. And the thought of replacing yourself, what stuck out to you during that episode? Or what sticks to you now, maybe?
Well, I do think that the biggest fear is, playing. I think what we do, to put it this way, we play not to lose. We don't play to win.
Wow.
And so replacing yourself is playing to win. Mm-hmm. It's saying that this is bigger than just me. It's winning at a level that the whole community, the whole church can win. And so since it's bigger than me, it's got to be more than me, right, and others than me. And so that really has for just a theme for me, whether I've been judicious at living it or not is one thing, to be honest, but it's something I know as wisdom that this is truth, that replacing yourself really is the strategy to win in ministry. 12 disciples, how many of them were martyred and had to replace themselves? Yeah. We talk about how Jesus started with a small group. The reason why Christianity grew was because the whole process was making more disciples. And so I think as artists, though, when we get to what Cynthia was saying, this is really difficult to do because the expedient thing is to, as I just put on my blog, the 5 worst trends in worship leading, which has kind of gone semi-viral, actually. But the whole one of those is just this idea that we want safe, we want predictable, we want rather than developing people, and that's just one of those themes that always comes back to me. And I think it's an edge. If in 2016 we could have the patience to take young people and semi-young people and older people and allow them to grow by that process in an environment that pushes them to growth, that says we're not happy where you're at, and you shouldn't be either, but yet we're not going to condemn you if somehow you're stumbling along the way. And this really is thinking back about Randy's story, thinking back at my own story, and many people I know, not having that freedom to fail is really an issue. So I think that went about 3 directions, but there you go.
What was the title of your blog that went semi-viral that you talked about? 5 styles?
It's the 2015's top 5 worst worship leading trends.
All right, so we kind of that's a lot right there. We didn't cover that specifically in one of our shows, but it does line up with we had Ryan Kennedy on, if you remember. Ryan actually came on back in November and talked about what drives the worship service. Is it our songs that we do? Is it keeping up with the next church? Or is it something else? Cynthia, can you kind of speak into that?
Yes. Keeping up with the Joneses or whatever in church work it can be debilitating, I think. And one thing that we talk about here, and not that we do it perfectly at all, I think sometimes I fail miserably at this because I'm by nature a very competitive person and want things to be done well. But our thing that we talk about, even when we have our prayer time, is we just keep saying this phrase, that everything that we do and say today would just have Jesus high and lifted up.
Right.
And I know that may be simple or break it down, but for me, I'm a visual person, and it's just for me, that's a visual I need of seeing Jesus high and lifted up, not the song, the artist, the video, the lighting, all of that. And if I can visually think that it's Jesus being high and lifted up, and that everything that we do wouldn't be a distraction to that. That's simple, but it does help us to kind of narrow our focus before we even get on the stage, before we even start a service here.
Yeah, good. Rich, what's your thought on that? As I'm pulling up your page right now.
A thought on my thought on that is that's fantastic. I think sometimes we make it complicated, and Cynthia, you might have, in a good way, burned a lot of us because sometimes, and it's good. No, this is good because there was a time when I remember I was so focused, and someone really mentioned this to me as a worship leader. I was so focused on what was going on because I was worried on the stage level, on the platform, what was going on, and not, and then I was worried about the congregation. That's the like second level you get to. But the higher level is what you're talking about, is when you can be competent enough at those things that you can actually do what you're talking about and say, this is the focus. And so that's why you rehearse. That's why you prepare music. That's why you pray. That's why you have relationships that are healthy, because that allows you the freedom then to say Jesus is first here in the middle of all of that stuff.
Right. Right. True. True. Well, I think it's imperative that we go by what our church body needs, and that let that determine your worship. Let that also determine the style in which how you worship. Cynthia, when you came on just this past December, you talked about celebrating and celebrating, but capitalizing the uniqueness of your team. So what part of that episode really spoke to you the most?
I think for me at Christmas time, it's for us in our community, it's an opportunity for me to tap maybe some of the more unique artists. Just because of the nature of Christmas music, there's a lot more pieces and parts that can be created. I love that this season that I felt like we tapped a lot of people that over the last year have expressed an interest in playing a specific instrument or singing. And I felt like this month we got to allow them to use their gifts with saxophone, flute, whatever that is. And then I felt like, looking back, and even with that episode, when I got to talk to my team about what we talked about in our hangout, it was good to see how some of the things we put into place to actually find those artists through our shape assessment online that we did this year, seeing those come to fruition with them moving from a form to actually getting to do and use their gift in a service. So that was kind of cool to be able to talk about that too. The second part of that is I'm real excited because we're trying to figure out a way in our worship center to create some staging so that I can do a worship choir from
cool.
Which that was one of the things that I didn't get to do in 2015 that I'm looking forward to 2016, and it's a logistical nightmare, honestly, for our stage, but we're going to try to figure that out because I have so many people, again, that have unique gifts that would love to just be a part of a worship choir. Not every week, but on a basis where they feel like they can participate that way. So that's kind of inspired us, I think, a little bit after talking about that a little bit a few weeks ago.
Wow, that's cool. That's awesome. Well, and we were a part of that. So thanks that we can share in your joy.
Yes.
So, Rich, what does 2016 hold for you, and what do you think it holds for the worshiping community? It's a big question.
That is a big question. I think the theme for me is to create, and create from where my church is at. And I think because the big push is to basically just cut and paste what is available out there, and there's some incredible stuff available out there. It makes us sound better. All of these things. I'm talking about everything from the tools like multi-tracks and all these other things that are great.
Yeah.
But I think creating your own stuff, for me personally, has become really important, regardless of the fact of how big my church is or what kind of style it is. I think that, and it doesn't have to be writing songs necessarily, even though for me that's part of it. I think it has to do with how do I take whatever tools I'm using and be sure that I'm being creative. And when I say creativity, as I mentioned in that article too, there's creativity as innovation solves a problem, and creativity as art tells a story. And oftentimes I believe that what the problem is that we are so into innovation at the church to solve problems that maybe we shouldn't be solving because we're not listening to who we are and who are the people in the pews or the chairs or whatever it is. And what is the story of our town? What's the story of of where we've come from? And testimony, old-fashioned word for those of us. What is our testimony? So for me, the creativity is not coming from the sense of just to make something cool. What I'm talking about is the kind of creativity that moves from just solving a problem, which is fine to do and it's great and creative, to saying, no, we want to tell a story about who God is in us. And we'll use these tools to do it. So nothing against the tools, but I think we get it backwards. We say, let's just solve some problems. And then when it comes to aesthetics, we cut off, investing in beauty, art, things like that. But the thing we're missing is how we as artists have to tell stories. Mm-hmm. And that's our value. And for me, I want to somehow live that out better in 2016. And I really would like some people to go with me on that journey.
Wow, cool. Very good. I love it. Cynthia, what does 2016 hold for you in your worship ministry?
Well, I love what Rich is saying about creating a story and telling your story. I think for us here, a lot of what I did in 2015 was experimental, honestly, with these worship leaders and kind of creating this from scratch. And I think for us, 2016 at our church holds really getting our roots deep in who God's called Hilton and Island Community Church to be in this community. And I know Todd and I, my husband, he's the lead pastor here, and we've talked a lot about that, is that we feel like God has really spent the last years that we've been planning this church helping us discover who we are, because we have a uniqueness like every church on this island does, but we need to be who God's created us to be. And I just come right off of what Rich said, is that we need to do that. We need to be the church that God's created us to be. And I think that's a trickle-down thing from the worship too.
Yeah.
In every aspect, our worship services need to represent who's coming, who's a part of our body, and tell their stories and how God has changed their lives from the moment they've received the message of Christ to learning how to walk with Him every day. So I love that. Rich, that was great, man. Can I steal that? That was awesome.
I stole it from a few people, so.
Oh, that was great.
He's not mentioning my name, so.
Yeah, I stole it from Brandon.
Okay.
Yeah, sure he did. Good. Well, awesome. Well, I mean, this is there's so much more to talk about, and man, we have a lot coming back at you folks in 2016. But we want to say a special thank you for this lady right here, Cynthia Cullen. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us again today on the Hangout. It's been awesome to have you, and we look forward to having you back more in 2016.
I'd love to. It'd be great.
Okay, I was waiting for the punchline, and she was going to complete it, so thank you. Standing on edge for her to say yes.
Yes.
Yes, awesome. And Rich, thank you too, bro, for being with us here and to see what God is going to do forever and ever with us together. So thank you for that, bro.
You're welcome. Absolutely, bro.
Awesome. Cool. And guys, you're going to be seeing Rich, this awesome dude, coming up pretty soon in January. We have more webinars coming at you. So all you folks watching us on Periscope right now, those of you who are watching us on your other social feeds, check this out. And January 6th, when we return to the Hangout, our new season, season 5, we are basically we have a new slate of guests coming up, so I'm really, really excited. We're talking to some great people, and among those that are going to join us, Scott Kokenauer. Scott is a really great dude on leadership. He works with a lot of pastors and worship leaders in terms of burnout. So Scott, spoke with him today. Awesome, and he's ready to go. So January the 6th on the Hangout, he's going to be with us. And also for our webinars coming up, we have Laura Marriott, who's going to be doing a vocal webinar. That's going to be awesome. Laura was with us just this past month on a Hangout at the beginning of December, and so be sure to hit us up on the webinars for that. You can find it at worshipteamtraining.com/events, and you'll find Laura. And also soon we will have Rich Kirkpatrick up. He's going to be on the 19th of January talking about his book. Well, not so much his book, but the topic, The 6 Hats of a Worship Leader. So he's going to share some key insights of his hat and every other style that he can wear. Plus, coming up, we're also talking to some great folks, such as your best friend over there, Fred McKinnon. Shout out to Fred and all that he's doing. So we want to get Fred on the show. Also, David Santisteban. How do you say that? Santisteban.
Santisteban.
Santisteban. I'm so sorry, David. My apologies.
I think that's right.
And but we're gonna have David on. We're gonna be talking to David. They have him on also. Bob Coughlin and Andy Rosser. So we have a lot of great people lined up, and even more folks that we're speaking with to have them come on the Hangout. So until then, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us today. God's blessings to you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you guys, and happy Christmas Eve services to all of our friends out there.
Yes, and Barry Westman too. Thanks, Barry, for chatting in on Periscope. And Rich, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, my brother.
Merry Christmas, and a last-minute gift idea.
Oh, yes. Yes.
If you're a worship leader, you want to know what to get him, and you know, the girls won't like this, but the guys will like this. And then it really works. So, you know, the bubble scarf.
This is the worship leader bubble scarf from Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Thanks to them.
That's right. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, guys, thanks so much again for being with us here. WorshipTeamTraining.com. Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Google, and there's so many others, as well as Periscope. So we have a lot of fantastic viewers on Periscope, a lot of great people watching us. So we want to be sure that we share that with you to follow us also on Periscope, as well as WorshipTeamTraining.com, where you'll find our workshops, our mentoring programs, University, which will be launching later in 2016, as well as more programs and webinars coming up just for you. So check it out, and the blog, all of our articles, WorshipTeamTraining.com. So guys, have a fantastic Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. May God's blessings flow to you and your worship team, and we'll see you back next time.